welcome to 10 Minutes About. We all know that the ETS entered into force for shipping the 1st of January this year. We also know the geographical scope, the emission scope, the ship size, vessel type, etc. But how about moving a little bit into the helicopter view and understand the mechanisms lying underneath the ETS? What mechanism that drives the price of an EUA, etc. This is what today's 10 Minutes is about, and I'm really delighted to be here and speak to my colleague Arne, who is an expert into this market. So Arne, just let me start by just very briefly ask you, what is the ETS system and what is an EUA, just very briefly?
Yeah, but the EU ETS system is a system, it's what we call a price and cap system. So if you have emission and you're included in the EU ETS, like an industrial company or a power company or a shipping company now, then you have to buy the EUAs, EU allowances, to be allowed to emit. And why is it called a price and cap system? Because there's a price on the EUA, and the cap is there's a limited number of EUAs in the market, and actually these EUAs will drop every year. That's a so-called reduction factor.
And then the third mechanism, you can also trade the EUA.
Yeah, sure. Sure. The trade and cap. Yeah.
Yeah. Where do they come from, these EUAs? I mean, how are they created?
I mean, it is an artificial commodity, but think about it as a commodity. But where do they come from? They come from what you call free allowances that especially industrial companies or certainly power companies have received free allowances, and they have been doing that so they can compete with competitors that are not in an emission scheme or emission system. And then they sell them on more or less daily auctions on the exchange. That is the EU. Sell them there, so they add EUAs to the market, and then there's what you call a market stability reserve. It's basically the political arm in this, and they can buy and sell allowances in the market, and basically it is to secure that the price doesn't go too high. It will sort of eradicate industrial sector in Europe, but also to make sure it doesn't go too low, because then it will not have any effect on the green transition. And remember, that's the whole idea behind this, that is to kickstart or to accelerate the green transition.
Exactly. You talked about free allowances. There are no free allowances for the shipping sector. We have a sort of a phased-in period.
Yeah. But you will add some extra allowances to the system, so you actually lift the cap a bit. Also, there's no sort of one-off where prices suddenly jump because now there's a new buyer in
exactly. This was a question that I've heard from many ship owners. Like, what will happen on the 1st of January 2024? We will still have the same number of allowances, no 78 million allowances.
Yes. But even if you didn't have that, you shouldn't exaggerate, I think, the impact, because remember, shipping is like 4 or 5% of emission in Europe, roughly a bit more maybe, of the whole EU ETS.
If you're a small ship owner, I mean, then you're not used to looking at other sectors. You're used to looking at your operation and making sure you have your liquidity for your bunkers, and now also for the EUAs. Shipping is entering into a system, right, where basically this sector is only a small fraction, and they have no influence on the price. The price is driven by other players. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, it's important to understand that in this system, it is the industrial sector, it is the power sector that are the sort of the main players in this. And so it's very important what their emission are, what their demand for allowances are. That is what is driving the price. That is why we're keeping an eye on what's the amount of renewables, for example, in the power system. Are you using coal? Or using wind? Are you using wind? There's no demand for EUAs. If you're using coal or natural gas, there'll be a demand. And if gas prices, for example, go up, power companies would tend to switch towards coal, for example. Yeah. Because then it will become more cheap. But if they use coal, they emit more, and they will have to buy more EUAs. So that is a very important.
And that will affect the price for the ship owner as well, because they're trading in the same market.
Exactly, in the same pool. So they can do whatever they like, but that will be the decisive factor for the price.
So what's I mean, the fact that the shipping sector can't really influence the price development, but how should they then of course, the ship owner wants to buy the EUA at the lowest level. And we've seen just within the last couple of months or since the beginning of 2024 that the price of an EUA has dropped by 20%, right? So how does a ship owner then decide when is the right moment to go and buy?
Yeah, but that is the same question you have if you buy bunker fuel, for example. When is the right moment? I think the drop we saw this year, the price rises we saw in 21, 22, underline that this is a relatively what you call a volatile market. Prices can go up and down. There are probably some caps on the upside due to this stability reserve system, probably also on the downside. But it's a volatile market. So as we say this is about risk management. Hedge your exposure, and you can do that in different ways. We can try to sort of give our view on what is driving prices, what is the future prices, but at the end of the day, of course, this is like oil. It's very hard to predict the future. Of
course, I mean, there can always be something that we didn't know about.
Very few people saw that prices would suddenly drop 20% in 2 weeks.
Exactly. How do you explain that?
I think what a lot of people overlooked, including myself, to be honest, is that actually the use of renewables in the European power sector was very, very high. Last year we had a lot of hydropower, a lot of nuclear power, a lot of wind, and there was actually a transition away from coal and natural gas. So they had a lot less demand for EUAs. And I think a lot of these companies realized here at the beginning of the year, we actually have too much of EUAs on our books.
Yes.
We are hedged, we are over-hedged. We need to sell in the market. So it became a self-fulfilling process that people say, okay, these guys are selling, then the price should come off. And I think that is going to happen. Is this a new price level? We don't know. If we end up in a situation where we have less renewables this year, it could be that nuclear power has problems again. Wind is not blowing as it did last year. Maybe we had problems again in the hydro sector as we had last year in 2022. Then prices could go up again. That's a lot of factors here. Also, how will the industrial sector do in Europe?
Yeah.
Energy-intensive industrial production in Germany is down more than close to 25% in 2 years. Yeah. Of course, they had less demand for EUAs. If the economy recovers, then they will come back as a buyer. So there's a lot of factors playing in here.
Exactly. So not only will the ship owner now have to understand the ETS system and how to buy the allowances, how to register, etc., and the relationship with his ship manager, etc. But how about all these other factors? I mean, how do they get their hang around this? I can definitely understand if I were a small ship owner, I would really be kept awake at night.
This is really a new market for most people. If they are suddenly included in this, and it is like a commodity market, but it's still a very different animal. Mm-hmm. You can basically have two strategies. Because if you emit the year after in September, you have to surrender the allowances. I think most people are aware of that. Mm-hmm. What can you do? You can buy your spot EUAs, your physical EUAs, put them in your registry, and you can do that. You have to go to a company like the company I work for, or a financial institution or whatever, and they can help you with that. You'll not be able to trade on the exchange yourself. Mm. Or if you don't want to buy the physical allowance, you can do, as you know, from other commodities like bunkers, you can do a forward contract that you have the EUAs delivered in the future. And there's actually a futures market for this, trading on the ICE. We also have Brent trading. But it's a system set up for huge emitters. Mm. So what you do is if you trade one lot, you have to trade 1,000 metric ton. And what you call liquidity is only found mainly in the December contract. And that might not fit very well to smaller emitters, especially the shipping, because there you might have a charter who has to travel from A to B 2 weeks' time, and this charter needs to hedge that specific period, that specific amount. Yeah. So we looked at this in my company, and we said, okay, maybe we can actually solve this. So we're actually providing, just as we do in oil, we're providing what you call liquidity across the curve. So any date, any tenor, also actually any size, in theory, down to 1 metric ton.
Yeah. Okay. So there are solutions. I mean, are you optimistic? Are you optimistic around, how will it work for shipping?
Yeah, I think this is going to work. When you get into it, it's not that complicated. It is a different animal because it's more of a financial market compared to a physical commodity market. But it's a lot of the same mechanism. You have a forward curve and so on. A lot of clients actually ask, because if they trade in, for example, bunker fuel, they're used to what you call backwardation, lower prices in the forward market for different reasons. In the EUA market, you will normally have what you call contango, that is higher prices in the future. And that is basically because this is a financial instrument, so it reflects interest rates. So there's no way around the contango, the higher forward prices. That's the way it is.
That's the way it is. And that's what we're here to also help clients.
Yes, exactly. So that's definitely a well-functioning market for hedging of this, and we try to contribute to that.
Thank you so much, Arne, and thank you so much for watching 10 Minutes About today.